Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. DUANE the Great Writer and Seer.
In this real side experience, I would find myself in the presence of other individuals that, although were unfamiliar to my personal self appearance-wise, impressions revealed they were those on their respective processes of awareness. For it is so that as the intents we establish determine the corresponding effected simulation in reflective accordance, as the simulation will then coordinate itself, that our intent, if maintained, will be actualized, then it follows that as the intents of individuals align, so must their experiential situations that unfolds to the actualization of the shared intent converge. And as individuals set the intent through the personal self with the isness a true reality, the recognition of that which the real awareness that we actually are is a part of and seeks to recognize, from the comparison as made available via the created secondary personal self-view position, so expected can it be that real side and physical level experiences between such individuals will be in convergence. We become then progressively less as operating in the experiential midst of those who elect to retain themselves as a personal self and consciousness immersed only, and more so our experience will be shared with those that are standing real with life and the true reality of their real awareness beingness. This particular group then, and myself, were set to embark on an assignment, and where we set intent with the ears, that the experiential rollout is that which facilitates this isness recognizing a journey, so our real side activities will be in accordance with that which is awareness beneficial. For the establishing of our positioning in recognition of the ears is made manifest through our promoting of the true reality and sharing the new you sound isness connection, for as everything equals itself, so through this reflective principle we become more aware in equal measure to the support we afford the true reality. And many of my real side experiences will involve assignments and projects That's essence is of an assist, awareness speaking, or the means by which circumstances can be improved for others, that the awareness process is more easily undertaken, as far harder is it to get through the creational process if our simulated circumstances are not conducive for such. Try learning your lessons in a school that is on fire as an analogy. But before our assignment could even begin, so entering the scene would be 2 young children, of the approximate age of 8 or so, a boy and a girl. A theme of my recent real-side experiences has been the incorporation of 2 young children into what is taking place, and although their forms may change, the overall sense is of the same 2 children, and although they appear as they do, impressions suggest they are in actuality something other than their outward forms suggest. For these 2 children would feature in previous real-side experiences where they were able to impact humanity's overall experience adversely through the introduction of certain dire idea agreement programs into humanity's collective experience affecting consciousness. The impressions were of they being a part of humanity's consciousness, but aside from it at the same time, able to have a bearing as to what transpires as humanity's experience, but not strictly as human themselves. And in this experience were they featuring again, and although visually they seemed to be doing nothing other than being present, impressions revealed they were manipulating and interfering with our assignment, as though impacting the very fabric of the experiential rollout we were desiring to make manifest, impacting then the very idea base from which the assignment experience is effected from. In this case, however, entering the scene would be a security team, impressions suggesting they were the real guides. For the guides will allow individuals to carry out their decided mischief and interference to an extent, for this then generates karmic effects the guides then can manage, by which such individuals can be removed from the ability to impact adversely. They and their intent and creations can be nullified, and in the most severe cases, so can such troublemakers be displaced into the phantom zone, where their ability to even create is removed. This wouldn't be then a violation of a free will, simply effects the disrupting character has manifested for themselves that are alternatively managed, that their destructiveness is mitigated or nullified. In this case, the guides, as the security team, would lift the 2 children off the floor by their clothing and remove them from the scene. The sense of the disruption they were causing, the interference with our assignment also removed. Children on the surface, yes, but in reality something else was animating through the seemingly innocent and harmless outer exteriors. The scene would fade, the group and myself finding ourselves in a rocky, mountainous location in an undisclosed area somewhere in multi-dimensional creation. It seemed that we had to transition through the mountains, through caverns and tunnels that afforded passage from where we currently were positioned to wherever they would lead us. Our progress would be hampered somewhat by the presence of an army of monstrous body forms that not only operated on the planet's surface, but throughout the mountain passageways we were intending to traverse through. These creatures would represent then resistance to our objective. They would be dark force affiliated, in the capacity of deployed assassins, their body types, all manner of twisted and distorted forms, generally along the more reptilian lines, all were bipedal, and forms where the secondary personal self had been established and was rather immersed with by all involved. Where conflict is concerned, as everything is according to the distribution and arrangement of agreement ideas as to what is effected outcome-wise, as two antagonistically opposed body forms come into a conjunction, what transpires between them is according to agreements each harbour in relation to each other. That for a body form to destroy mine, my consciousness must have installed the agreement that this can be so, as absent of the idea of destruction, and this cannot be then my simulated experience in relation to my assailant. And although my adversary may still attempt my eradication, this will not be my experience in association with my would-be slayer, as the idea program isn't present that such can be effected as a simulation. Just as it is in computer games, characters can only harm or destroy others according to the programmed files which make this possible. And as we are attacked by those that we have no agreements extended to that allow them success, this will express as us putting down their assailing efforts in whatever simulated way it might. In this case, the group and myself would assume forms that were more formidable than those opposing us, which ensured our ability to defend ourselves. In my case, so I would assume a number of bipedal, two-legged dragonic forms, reptilian forms, and grisly wolf-like exteriors, and the group and myself would smash our way through the obstacle that this large army of twisted reptilian creatures presented as. We made it through the mountain caverns, and as though then reaching our objective, a certain position deep within the mountain where I would find myself now removed and reinserted into a different situation, though I would be proceeding alone. I had to negotiate through a series of technological chambers, and to continuously proceed, so I would have to activate a certain glowing orb that featured in each chamber. The chambers contained also robotic creatures that if they made a contact with the form I was operating through in these tech chambers, so my progress would not only be halted but derailed, and I would be removed from the overall series of chambers I was attempting to transition through. I have encountered this kind of situation on a number of real-side occasions. The representation is that of garnering agreement from whatever it is that the series of chambers, tunnels, or stages represents. For as everything is based on agreement, as we go about our various and assorted real-side assignments, in reality, to effect alternative and more beneficial simulator circumstances, we are restructuring the agreement ideas that effect them, and certain individuals will have established themselves that they can swing a vast agreement, or have the agreement extended to them that they can impact the simulation of others on a vast scale. Approaching such beings then will be prudent, and the extent by which we are gleaning agreement that they will be operating in more beneficial capacities, or assisting us galactically, can be revealed by the resistance we encounter in these gauntlet-style stage or chamber transitioning experiences. That if we overcome all obstacles and reach the termination point, this represents agreement secured. If we fail, then agreement was found lacking. And where these type of experiences, where we are traversing through a series of chambers, present as technological, as was the case here, this is in regards more so then to mechanical-based body forms we are dealing with, as the body form really is immaterial, be it mechanical or biological, as awareness will be animating through it all. And some technological, mechanical-based vehicles are in very agreement-afforded influential positions indeed, where they are able to exact change on massive simulator scales. I had the impression of having attempted this particular agreement-gleaning venture before, from whatever mechanical form this series of chambers represented, and where I was successful before, where agreement was secured, it seems whatever this body type was had redacted agreement since, and so necessary was it for me to attempt to regain this agreement, to repeat this process of negotiating through these chambers, and avoid the mechanical forms within as I had once previously. And although I was doing so alone, there were the impressions of the group that had been with me up until this point, although not present with me, as though observing my progress from aside what was taking place, rather an aside from simulation, real awareness position. I would progress so far as though there wasn't complete resistance to the agreement we were attempting to claim, activating a number of the chamber orb devices that I could proceed to a point, but then one of the robotic forms would zero in and make contact with my form. I would be removed from the overall series of chambers, representing my failure and inability to glean the agreement we once had with the mechanical body form the chambers represented. As I said, with everything that occurs in the simulators based on agreement, to have effected more awareness beneficial circumstances for all, that is more conducive than awareness process speaking. It's all about assuaging the agreement foundation, and even as we do secure agreement, it's a case of attempting its maintenance, as agreement can change one moment to the next. Very likely I would attempt to engage with the mechanical being again, as this seemed necessary, a being that, as I said, impressions revealed, was in an agreement-afforded position where it could impact the simulator on a vast scale. The dark forces evidently didn't wish that I even approach this being, hence the resistance they had erected in the form of their monster army as we attempted to transition through the mountains, a required journey to reach a point or position where I could interface or interact with the mechanical-based being in the first place. The scene would switch. I now would find myself aboard what I may describe as an ark in space. It has been revealed on a number of real-side experiences over the years by myself and others that in the event of the planet Earth being the recipient of a cataclysmic extinction event upheavals, or any other global situation that renders our ability to operate and share the new you and the opportunity of the years unfeasible, then planetary relocation is an option as made available. For indeed, the human experience is at its foundation a controlled situation. For since humanity's inception, as they were born of slavery, genetically engineered by the Dark Force reptilians for this sole purpose, so effected to this current moment has the human race experience been that of a subjugation at the hands of the reptilian controllers. The human overall consciousness then is effectively programmed that the affecting experience in relation to the reptilians is that which suits the dark force reptilians, and is as another collective slave species agreement that props up and maintains the dark forces in all their expressions as controllers of the entire simulator. The programmed human consciousness then is having additional idea agreements inserted that, along with the base template and foundation, which is control, that the overall human race restricted experience can escalate, the agendas for control continue to roll out, with the dark forces now desiring to implement depopulation scenarios and even a complete genocide of humanity as a species. That should overall humanity remain a consciousness immersed, this is a consciousness programmed, as I said, where affected as overall human experience may be whatever of the various consciousness installed cataclysmic style events comes to pass as a physical level actualities, all according to which agreement in human consciousness takes precedence, is held to over all other possibilities, and rolls out accordingly. That the new friends may be as a part of humanity in this current lifetime, we have taken on then the same dark force reptilian programmed human consciousness, that we can experience the human game, so to speak, but as the process of awareness involves a facing and releasing of the consciousness of ideas in its entirety, this would include the human programmed consciousness, that although we are subject to the human experience as effected from it, we are not resigned to that which the consciousness embracing human will be. The ideas of apocalyptic upheaval we are not clinging to, as the human not embracing their own awareness process will be, and as such we are liberated from the effects most of humanity will be resigned to. And although agreements of depopulation and a planetary upheaval may be in fact surpassed by those more beneficial, such as the alien armada and the bringing of humanity into the conglomeration of awareness becoming species, as is part of the armada's objective, if indeed able to, far better is it to be positioned where we are not resigned to whatever humanity ultimately decides and agrees with, through a virtue of the human consciousness clung to, that we can be liberated from the unconscious effects, and now can consciously agree with the beneficial ideas, such as the Armada. And should the more dastardly agreements take prominence in human consciousness, we then are not shackled to the effects, and can consciously agree with alternatives, such as the available relocation options. That although I wouldn't be shown exactly what had transpired on the earth in this case and experience, it was of a cataclysmic, globally adverse impacting nature, and so exacted was a means of extraction for the new friends, as I and various other individuals would be secured on a larger spaceship that was leaving the earth behind. An arc would describe it best, as I said. I would in fact be in the presence of a mechanical body form, a bipedal robot of a kind, as he seemed to be associated with this earth extraction effort and featuring on the ship. Interestingly, it seemed that our exodus from earth hadn't been without incident, as though we had sustained a fire from either ground-based weaponry or perhaps a dark force-affiliated spacecraft, evidently not wishing that we escape the fate humanity were resigned through their agreements to endure. That although the ship wasn't destroyed or impaired in any way, there had been damage sustained to certain parts of it, including the data storage areas. For indeed, every ears pertaining reference, every of DUANE's new books, anything written in regards to the true reality, the Facebook groups, and every real side experience ever shared had been transferred as a data to the ship's computers, that it not be lost with the Earth as it suffered its dark force instigated destruction. As I said, the computer data storage areas had suffered damage, and unfortunately some of the real side experiences had been lost consequently. The robot and myself were going through the data files and determining what was retained, what could be saved and salvaged, transferred to other data storage files, and what was now lost and irretrievable. But in reality, nothing is lost, only that which is recorded from the creational side, either in a consciousness or through a technology. The isness as the everything reality will hold everything as ever experienced in creation, physical level and real side, referred to as the universal files. But nevertheless, we were determining what had been lost, as is referencing information and real side experience data files from the ship's computers. Where we were heading wasn't revealed, but as I said, a necessary relocation should remaining on the Earth no longer be feasible.